Those words were ever sung. And those words are words that Lucy Stone's daughter, Alice Stone Blackwell, published about her mother's life. And if you liked the poem, or if you maybe there was part of it that you'd like to see written down, we have it printed out over at the Quabog Historical Society table, which is the one with the plates and the tributes. Again, my name is Beth Sweeney, and now we're going to have a brief series of speeches in tribute to Lucy Stone. And I'm going to start by thanking the people who helped put this afternoon together. And I also want to name the people who are here and ask some people to stand, but I'll get to that in a second. First, we would like to thank the Quabog Historical Society, our co-sponsor for this event, the West Brookfield Common Committee, and the town of West Brookfield. And let me point out in particular that Marguerite Geis, please stand, Marguerite. Marguerite Geis was a wonderful participant in planning this event, because with one breath she would say to us, "No, I can't do anything because I'm about to celebrate my 50th wedding anniversary and it's the same weekend." And with the other breath, she would say, "Well, I can do this, and how about we do this? I'll take care of it." So thank you very much, Marguerite. And Margaret has done a lot of work for Lucy Stone over the years, has the Quabog Historical Society and the West Brookfield Historical Commission. One of the things that the Quabog Historical Society does is to give out awards in memory of Lucy Stone. These are awards for people whose zest for performing social activism and work towards making life better for everyone is the kind of work that Lucy Stone herself would have done. And we have here in the front row the 1999 winner, Constance Small. And sitting next to her this year's recipient of the Lucy Stone Award, Paul Walker. Somewhere here is Joanna Berry. I'm not sure. Could you stand up, Joanna? This is Joanna Berry. She's been really helpful also in setting up this event. Some of the other people we would like to thank are the Lucy Stone Commemorative Committee of Gardner, and Anita Aspen is sitting over there, and Connie Rod. There's Connie Rod. Okay. Also, we'd like to thank the Lucy Stone League, and my colleague at Holy Cross, Helen Wall, is going to speak on behalf of the Lucy Stone League. And if you don't know what the Lucy Stone League is, you'll find out. And from the Worcester Women's History Project, we have somewhere, right over here, we have Lisa Connolly Cook, who was the co-founder of the Worcester Women's History Project. And next to her is Carolyn Howe, who is the president of the Worcester Women's History Project. And we would also like to thank Catered by Adams in Spencer, for donating napkins, plates, and forks for the birthday cake. We'd like to thank our very special guests, Chuck and Mud, who you'll be hearing more of later. And I'm sort of putting some additional thank yous in a list of people I'm going to ask to stand. I also want to thank Will Early, who is the president of the Quabog Historical Society. And his wife, Anne Early, who has become a recognized today. You'll see her again later. And we have some very distinguished guests here from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We have Senator Brewer, and also Senator Wetmore. And then we'll be speaking later too. My own last announcement will be to point out if you want any more materials on the Worcester Women's History Project, the Quabog Historical Society, the West Brookfield Historical Commission, the Lucy Stone League, or the Unitarian Universalist Women's Heritage Association, you can get them all right over there. And again, we have a clown who will do face painting and balloon animals, and there are some other things also for children. So, that's the end of the thank yous. Oh, always the longest part of the speeches. And I'd now like to introduce to you again Carolyn Howell, the president of the Worcester Women's History Project. And everyone else who's going to speak, if you want, can come on up to the stage.
Good afternoon, and thank you for coming on this rainy day, cloudy day. My name is Carolyn Howell, and I'm president of the Worcester Women's History Project. And I just want to tell you a little bit about the Worcester Women's History Project and one of the important upcoming events that the project is organizing that we hope all of you will participate in. The Worcester Women's History Project was founded 6 years ago by Lisa Connolly Cook, who was a graduate student at the time and read a little sentence in a history book about, that said something about the first National Women's Rights Convention that took place in Worcester, Massachusetts in 1850. And she had been studying women's history for a long time, and she said, I didn't know about this. Did anybody else know about this? She started talking to her friends, people around her, people in the community who seemed to know things. And nobody knew that the first National Women's Rights Convention was held in Worcester, Massachusetts. And people from all over central Massachusetts were attended, and in fact Lucy Stone was one of the people who put out the call and organized the first National Women's Rights Convention. So why don't we know this? So she went to some friends and they called a little meeting and they said, we should host a celebration of this important event in the year 2000. It'll be the 150th anniversary. At the time, 6 years ago, I think all the people here from the Worcester Women's History Project who were around at that time thought October of 2000 was a long, long time in the future. And suddenly it's here. What we are planning for October is a celebration that we're calling Women 2000. I think there's some little flyers out there and bumper stickers and buttons to celebrate this event. This weekend is intended to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the first National Women's Rights Convention, and also ask how far have women come in the last 150 years. And in order to do this, there will be a number of workshops. There will be 30 workshops. There will be a number of keynote events, including a luncheon panel with distinguished speakers. Justice Margaret Marshall, who was the first woman Supreme Court Justice of the State Judicial Court. United Farm Workers co-founder and Secretary-Treasurer Dolores Huerta. a health activist, Maisie Louie from Boston, and education leader Glenda Wilson. They will be a panel discussing how far do women come and where do we need to go from here. There will also be, as I mentioned, 30 other workshops in the areas of health and relationships, education, politics, and work issues, as well as some historical workshops. And then one of the centerpieces of our celebration is a play called Angels and Infidels. The play is going to be performed on Saturday night and on Sunday night on October 21st and 22nd. And one of the main characters of the play is Lucy Stone, which should interest all the people from West Brookfield, so we hope you will come to the play. The play is a historical dramatization of the first National Women's Rights Convention. And we hired a playwright, a very well-known, nationally acclaimed playwright to write this historical dramatization that will be performed in Mechanics Hall. Our Women 2000 weekend is going to also have an opening ceremony with Jill Conway, who's the first woman president of Smith College. And it will end with a concert by Sweet Honey in the Rock, which is an African-American women's a cappella singing group from the Washington, D.C. area. So it's going to be a weekend celebration of a number of events, to celebrate this important moment in history. Let me just back up a minute. I'm curious how many of you know about the fact that the first National Women's Rights Convention was held in Worcester in 1850. How many of you knew that? How many of you knew that 5 years ago? Okay. How many of you knew that 6 years ago? All right. Oh, great. Great. The numbers go down. So hopefully the Women's History Project has had some impact in helping us spread awareness of this. People know about Seneca Falls. And the Seneca Falls Convention was a local convention. It was the first. It was a local convention, and it was so successful that 2 other places had local conventions, and they were very successful. And then a group of radical abolitionists gathered in at Faneuil Hall in Boston after an abolitionist meeting and said, we should have a national convention. And all the trains went through Worcester at the time. And Worcester was also a center of temperance and abolitionists and other kinds of activity, health reform movements and so forth. So Worcester seemed like a logical place to host this convention. And one of the main objectives of the Worcester Women's History Project is to reclaim this important history of Worcester and Worcester County in the history of the women's rights movement over the last 150 years, and we think into the future. And to bring this back into public awareness and into awareness of the historians, and get us written back into the history books, so that it's something that everybody, not only in central Massachusetts, but nationally knows about. Let me just mention very quickly a couple of other things that we are doing and have done in addition to Women 2000 to try to reclaim this history and celebrate it. One of the most dramatic programs that we've sponsored that some of you may have seen is the hanging of 4 women portraits at Mechanics Hall in Worcester. This was a long, involved process, and we raised mostly from individual donations and foundations $125,000 to hire 4 artists to have 4 artists paint the pictures of Lucy Stone, Abby Kelly Foster, Dorothea Dix, and Clara Barton, to get these portraits framed and hung in Mechanics Hall. So if you haven't been to Mechanics Hall to see these 4 women who will now hang with the group of men who have been there for many years, you really should go. It's quite beautiful to behold this. That was one of our biggest accomplishments to date. We've also had a number of teachers workshops, and on Friday, October 20th, before Women 2000 officially begins, there will be another teachers conference addressing the issue of how to bring issues affecting women into the classroom, how to integrate women's concerns into the classroom, ranging from music to art to math to science to English and obviously to history classrooms. And then the last thing I want to mention is we are creating a women's history heritage trail that will go throughout central Massachusetts to give people something to look for when they drive through the mirror, give us something to be proud of, give school children history tours that they can go on here and not having to go to another part of the country to realize the important history that our area, our communities in central Massachusetts were a part of, and the important history we were a part of creating. So, since this is a party and we're supposed to be celebrating, not just sitting and listening, I'll stop there and introduce my colleague, Lisa Connolly-Cook, who I've mentioned is the person who came up with this idea. And she's going to talk a little bit about Lucy Stone.
I don't think I'm going to recount too much of Lucy Stone's life. There's some wonderful biographies out there. There's a biography by Andrew Her, which is great. It would take so long to talk all about Lucy Stone. But I just want to say happy birthday, Lucy Stone. She'll be 182, I think, today, which is just really amazing. And just wanted to take a few minutes, only a couple of minutes, to just remember her. Remember her in a way. Remember her restless spirit, her not being content to accept her lot in life at a time when being born a girl might not have been such a joyful occasion, as we've heard that Lucy Stone's mother was somewhat disappointed that her baby was a girl because a woman's lot is so hard. We remember her adventurousness and her intellectual curiosity, her thirst for learning and wanting to go to school, her enterprising mind. We've learned that Lucy Stone went into the woods to gather berries and nuts to sell to buy books so that she could learn along with her brothers, to prepare herself to go to college. Her adventurousness and her willingness to get on a train and go out to Ohio to go to college at Oberlin, to her openness to learning at a time when she was teaching fugitive slaves at the college who were learning there. She herself learned from them. She became an activist and an abolitionist, and that's really her legacy. She's known as an abolitionist, a women's rights activist. She was a persuasive speaker. She was a journalist, really a businesswoman, an organizer, and we remember her today. She was one of the organizers, as Carolyn said, of the first National Women's Rights Convention held in Worcester in 1850, which we'll be celebrating this October. She also organized the American Women's Suffrage Association and hardly gets much credit for doing that, which was an enormous and wonderful thing. She published the Women's Journal along with her husband for 23 years, I think from 1870 until her death in 1893, when her husband and her daughter carried it on, and her daughter continued it until after women got the right to vote in 1920. She was a role model for many, for young girls and for people in the Boston community where she lived in the later years of her life. I think of her many times, and I remember reading this in Andrea Morker's book. I think of her roaming the hills around here, roaming Coy Hill, and I imagine, I remember meeting Sylvia Bach from Warren several years ago, and she took me up to Coy Hill, and I just thought, you know, Lucy Stone must have felt like she was just on top of the world when she was up here. And, you know, I thought about where all the places that she went from that place. And when she was in Boston, she was really a fixture at the State House. And I think that her face was probably well known, and I remember, thanks to Senator Wetmore, her face is a fixture there again, and I thank him, and I remember being a part of the committee that he got going at the State House to find a way to honor women and their contributions to the state of Massachusetts government. And Lucy Stone, among 6 others, are now honored because of the work that he did, and that's a wonderful thing. So there are many things to remember about Lucy Stone, and I could go on and on and on, and I won't, but I just wanted to say happy birthday to Lucy Stone and invite you all to investigate further and learn more about her and the things that she did. Thank you. I would like to introduce Helen Wall, who is an associate professor of English at Holy Cross College and a life member of the Lucy Stone League, to talk about that.
I think in many ways, given all that we know just in coming today to celebrate Lucy Stone, know about her work in suffrage, know about her work in abolition right and freedom for all people. But to think about a league that's mostly devoted to the issue of naming may seem kind of ephemeral, but it certainly isn't insofar as the history of Lucy Stone and I think our ongoing history, because of the singular importance as individuals of naming our names and of the way in which that one connects to society, of linking the individual to the community at large. It was wonderful. I haven't been out in the Brookfields for a while. I grew up in Boston, and I remember many of what seemed very long journey from Boston on Route 9 with my father to go fishing in the Swift River. And so I drove out today and saw that beautiful plaque, "Welcome to West Brookfield, birthplace of Lucy Stone." The significance, therefore, of both names, West Brookfield, not Brookfield, not East Brookfield, claiming Lucy Stone in that birthplace. You all know that your names are important, and I can play a game with you to prove it to you. No matter what you've done with your last name, what have you done with your first name? Have I anyone here who somewhere in their lives decided to change their first name? What was your name and what did you change it from? First name?
It was Lorette, the same as my mother's. And when I was in first grade, I did not like being little Lorette. So I changed it to Frances.
From little Lorette to Frances. How did you choose Frances?
I like to be Frances.
And you felt like Frances. And you've been comfortable in that name. Excellent.
Because with the change of one letter, they all
Ah, how very clever. One of my favorite opening sentences in literature, for those of you who have Harry Potter children, I recommend they go back and sit down to the Narnia Chronicles. C.S. Lewis starts a book with there once was a boy named Eustace Clarence Scrubb, and he almost deserved it. Senator Wetmore, can I take advantage of your being on the stage? In your social life, are you Robert, Rob, Bob?
I'll be well done.
When you were a young boy, were you Bobby? You were always Benny. Ah, okay, so that Benny and Robert, an interesting transformation. Do you retain Benny?
Mostly back now,
Where they know you as Benny. They are and identifying. I've always been fascinated, but won't plunge too deeply. Susan Elizabeth Sweeney, who all of her friends know as Beth. Were you ever Susan? Were you? So your names, and if I had more time than you want to give me today, I'd ask those little kids out there if they're happy inside of their names. Of course, Lucy Stone was quite aware of the significance that we feel as individuals wanting to be comfortable inside of our names, and was one of the first women to fight the battle to retain a name that we will come to know her by, which is not Lucy, but Lucy Stone. That's a very deliberate choice. I'm going to read briefly from a book that came out 2 years ago called The Language of Names, which was actually written by the daughter of the second president of the Lucy Stone League. We're into about our third wave, and if I'm done and any of you are interested in finding finding out what's going on with the Lucy Stone League today, have a sign-up sheet back there, and we'll send you information, and if you even wanted a registration form, but we'll send you the information even if you don't want to join the society. But Anne Bernays, who's a novelist married to Pulitzer Prize-winning biographer Justin Kaplan, who played the name Jungle all along because they've often co-authored, as they did with this book, writes, in the mid-19th century, some women began to open their eyes, stir, and cry out for the matter of names. A few articulate stalwarts, like Lucy Stone and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, challenged the notion that to marry meant to discard your surname as routinely as you did your jacket in the heat. Since Stone and Stanton were radical feminists, the subject of names folded neatly into their omnibus crusade for women's rights. Civil, domestic, financial, all its parts made up one grand, iconoclastic adventure. Lucy Stone was born in 1818 to a New England mother who believed that a husband ruled his family by divine right. Rejecting her inferior status as a woman, Stone earned enough money teaching school to enroll at the age of 25 at Oberlin College in Ohio. At Oberlin, she read somewhere that, quote, women are more sunk by marriage than men. When she asked the teacher to please explain what this meant, he told her, deliberately oversimplifying the matter, that the reason men are the dominant partners in marriage was that they didn't have to give up their names. His explanation triggered a lifelong mission. Rejecting her mother's domestic credo, Lucy agitated most of her life on behalf of women's suffrage and, for lack of a better phrase, maiden-namism. Married to a businessman abolitionist Henry Brown Blackwell, she kept her own name, although in an odd courtesy to custom, she signed herself as Mrs. Stone. Many years later, in 1921, she became an icon for 50 professional women who founded the Lucy Stone League in order to spread the gospel of maiden-namism. Their credo, my name is the symbol of my identity and must not be lost. The League was the brainchild of journalist Ruth Hale, married to a fellow journalist, Hayward Brown. Hale kept her name, although this often involved a struggle. These early activists didn't notice the retrograde implications of the word maiden in maiden name, and it wasn't an issue until the late 1980s that feminists decided the offending sexist term should be better dropped in favor of birth name. The founding members of the Lucy Stone League, known as Lucy Stoners, must have realized how unrepresentative a band they were when they set up against this society. 50 as against millions of married women who not only didn't care a bit about the psychology of identity, but viewed their newly acquired names as an insignia of respectability and established a name to be cherished and flaunted like a 4-carat diamond-cut ring set in platinum. Never mind, Lucy Stoners enjoyed getting together and talking about their crusade, which was more philosophical armchair thing than anything else. And the next generation of the Lucy Stone League really starts in the 1950s and is tied to something which I certainly do remember well myself, which is truly the right to retain your birth name at such marvelous places. As I recall greatly my struggles with the, at that time, Connecticut Registry of Motor Vehicles. Registries are such pleasant places to begin in the first place. But the League then went into a kind of quiet period, and interestingly enough, has been reborn largely because of a place that has generated so much by way of inventive names, the Internet. The Lucy Stone League now, although it's housed physically in Maine, is spread throughout the country, and a lot of it is done by managing to link by email. If you are interested, the League now has actually moved on to that new stage where all men and women are invited to join the League, and all women and men are invited to testify to the right to choose your name, whether it is the name that you were born with or the name that you change, whether because you felt more comfortable as Francis than as Lorette, or because you chose at marriage, male or female, to change your name to your partner's or blend the two together. Whichever, now it's more a matter of looking for independence and autonomy in deciding who I am as an individual before interacting with society. I think it's come along with the evolution of feminism in recognizing now the significance of crediting the work women do not only outside of the home, but inside of the House, as well as in the Senate, and the right of a man to choose to work in inside of the home as well as the house. So if you are interested in more information on the Lucy Stone League, I'll take your name and address down there. Please use your currently registered name so that you're located through the U.S. Postal Services. And happy birthday to Lucy Stone. Should know well, and that is from your own commemorative committee, Anita Aspen and Connie Riley. Connie Riley and I represent 2/3 of the Lucy Stone Commemorative Committee in Gardner, which with the Gardner Historical Commission dedicated 2 markers in honor of Lucy Stone Sunday, June 25th. A lot of people still do not know what the connection is Lucy Stone with Gardner. Lucy Stone, soon after she graduated from Oakland College, and it was August 1847 that she returned to West Brookfield, gave her very first speech on women's rights in Gardner. And the reason, probably, that she chose Gardner was that both her brother and sister were living in Gardner at the time. Her brother was the Reverend William Bowman Stone, who was minister of the First Congregational Church in Gardner from 1842 to 1850. So he would have been there in 1847, and this was an opportunity for her to reach an interested audience. Her sister, Sarah Stone, also came to Gardner after her marriage in 1845. She married Henry Lawrence, who was from Hardwick. And after 1 year in New York State, where he was a teacher, they settled permanently in Gardner. And in 1852, they bought a house quite distinguished in Gardner history. It was known as the Reverend Osgood House on 186 Elm Street, where they lived for the rest of their lives. And they were very exemplary citizens. Their one remaining survivor daughter, I should say, was named Emma. And like her Aunt Lucy, she married one of the Blackwood brothers. She married the youngest Blackwood brother, George, and they were married in Gardner in 1875. The 2 markers are located as near to the original site of the church where she gave her speech in October 1847. And the other marker is at 186 Elm Street, where Lucy visited very much throughout her life because of her sister and brother-in-law living there. The erection of these 2 historical markers span, I would say, a number of decades. Connie Riley will tell you the part of this part of the story. She introduced myself and Tony Dahan, who was the chairperson of our commemorative committee, to Lucy Stone. And she'll now take over and give you a brief summary of the long, arduous trail to the erection of these markers.
Combined Historical Society, and the successor to Marguerite Geis, who gave of herself in so many ways of making society a success. So I'm very proud to be here. I was born in video, and during my early years I was called Billy, and later on I graduated to Bill. But 35 years ago, in a flash of inspiration, I decided that every Tom, Dick, and Harry was named Bill. So I decided to change it to Will. And that's what I am today. So it's really interesting that people in this town call me Will. My contemporaries from Worcester, where I was born, call me Bill. And even some of them still call me Billy. And I'm 71 years old. And Billy is not Welcome to West Brookfield, birth of Lucy Stone. And I would just echo what Lisa said about walking up to the Lucy Stone birth site, pull around the foundation of the most wonderful thing in the world is, I think, go up some evening and walk to the top of a Court Hill and look at the stars, as Lucy used to. I'm just going to briefly read a citation from the House of Representatives in Massachusetts, who did recognize that, yes, beyond 128 there is a country. From the House of Representatives, it says, "Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to the Quabog Historical Society and the Worcester Women's History Project Group in recognition of your hard work and dedication in organizing the 182nd birthday celebration of the women's rights activist Lucy Stone. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors." And given this 13th day of August, year 2000, the State House of Representatives is signed by Thomas H. Benner, the Speaker of the House, and offered by David Tuttle, State Representative, who could not be with us today. Thank you. At this point, I would like to introduce an indefatigable support of all the historical projects that we have here in West Brookfield. This is an astute student of history of our area, has never missed one of the occasions that he heard about, not necessarily was invited to, but heard about. He would be here with bells and hat on. And so it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce the Honorable Stephen Brewer.
Thank you, Will. I think I'll have to talk about the names that I get called in Barry as a little boy growing up. When I was a paper boy and I go to the golden ages, now they still call me Stevie, even though I'm 53 years old. I will not tell you what the Senate President called me when I voted against $100 million for the Red Sox. Had I known that would be a good applause line, I would have used it a few weeks ago. I want to congratulate the Worcester Women's History Project, particularly for what they have done at Mechanics Hall with the portraits of distinguished women of Massachusetts. As a little boy and as a paper boy, they telegraphed executives to take us to a celebration here. And it was heading for the wrecking ball, and I know of. And frankly, it was the leadership of a woman, Julie Chase Fuller, that led Mechanics Hall back to being the preeminent, in my opinion, auditorium in the United States. Now, granted, I haven't been to all of them. Probably haven't been to hardly any of them. But who would ever say that Mechanics Hall isn't one of the state-of-the-art facilities anywhere? And it's a testament to all of you for doing that. You are also in a hall that we are immensely proud of here in West Brookfield as well. There's approximately $1 million in this building in rehabilitation work as well, making it handicap accessible and making it totally utilitarian for all governmental offices. This very hall that you're in has been so elegantly painted in its period colors by the inmates of Worcester County House of Correction. Lucy Stone would have liked that. Idle hands and tools with them. And put them to work. They get our tax dollars, and they're doing that now. They've done it in Warren, and we continue to have them do that in many areas. Playing around with history a little bit, I also learned that Lucy Stone was the first woman cremated in New England. So not only was she a leader in life, but she was a leader in death. And I continue to be inspired by her final words in life when she was on her deathbed, where she said, "Make the world better." And I think that's very important for all of us to try to do that. Thinking of the West Brookfield angle of this thing, I think we could have used her when the Corey Hill cell tower debates were going on as well, because she would have been a very strong advocate. I am struck by the ironies of history. I constantly, just yesterday in Athol, we dedicated a very lovely war memorial to all of the veterans, an absolutely splendid monument. And the speaker before me, Alan Bowers of the Disabled American Veterans, was speaking about Major Armistead at Fort McHenry, where the Star Spangled Banner was written. And after the speech was done, and we were reading and everything, I went over to talk to Mr. Powers, and I told him how Major Armistead's son, General Lou Armistead, was a major leader for the Union Army in Battle of Gettysburg. So we constantly are relished and energized by our love and our respect and our veneration of American history. What you people have done for Lucy Stone by elevating the issues of her abolitionism and frankly of her gender equality, and changes are brought in America slowly and begrudgingly. Make no mistake about it, those changes happen. Even in my own family, even in my own dinner table, my two daughters, ages 12 and 8, will take second place to no male in the world. Believe me when I say that. They stand strong and they stand proud. I now know what it's like to be a minority because I'm voted 3-1 in all arguments now also as well. And that is just fine. My wife and I raise our children to believe in their heart of hearts any person in America can be all and do anything they want in this society if they have the courage and are willing to try. That's the message of Lucy Stone. One of the very interesting, another aside of history, on Thursday, over on Elm Street in Gardner, when I was with Senator Wetmore, and Tipper Gore and Hadassah Lieberman were there, Hadassah coming back to her high school, Gardner High School, 1966 class, and by Joe Lieberman, a Jewish person of a Jewish faith, being nominated this week to become Vice President of the United States, I hope, quite honestly, and also Hadassah Lieberman, who was a studious, industrious daughter of a persecuted Jewish rabbi from Czechoslovakia, persecuted by Hitler and headed for the concentration camps. And he listened to the tapes in the English language, to learn the English language, to come here, and to be a strong and proud American. And the fact is, as Jesse Jackson said, when the doors of opportunity are open to one person and one faith or one sect, the doors of opportunity are open to everyone. That is something Lucy Stone would have been immensely proud of as well. And I think that her message continues on. This legislature this year passed the mental health parity bill as well. You know, it's one thing if you've got a broken arm and the insurance companies will help you. But when you're mentally ill, there's always been that old stigma to that issue as well. And we finally have stood up in the Massachusetts legislature to have parity for mental illnesses as well. And I think when the door of opportunity is open for one, it is open for all. And our mission and our efforts have to be to continue that for all citizens, regardless of race, creed, gender, or any other aspect in our society. If we do not do that, then we break faith in Lucy Stone and the vision and the mission that she had for all of us as well. So I'm proud and honored to join you today. I have a little bit of a surprise because the party girl, who has been so very, very partied out perhaps this weekend, Representative Tuttle is on vacation, much needed and much deserved vacation with his wife and daughter and soon to be another child. Couldn't be with us, but we have for Marguerite Geis, and I will bring this over to you, for James and Marguerite Geis, in recognition of the happy occasion of your golden wedding anniversary. We appreciate everything that you do, Marguerite. I will bring these down one moment. Before I do that, I'm going to come down off the stage and not get back up here. Because, again, when you can't be in two places at one time, I have to be in Sturgis for 5 o'clock. Aren't you lucky? But it is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you Lucy Stone and Senator Robert Wetmore. And I just want to say publicly what he and I have sat on the stage at over 100 events in the 8 years that I was the representative for Senator. So all of what he has done, his lasting legacy in the State House is multi-fold.
Ruth Fire, who worked in my office at the time, she came out from Brookline to be here today. And she is a busy attorney, relying on constant direction. I'd like to have you all know who Ruth is. She really did a lot of her work on the stage to go and get a chance. And I'm sure if you have a problem finding your way around the State House, you can call Senator Drew. He'll be more than glad to make any arrangements and make sure you have a good day. Birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, Lucy, happy birthday.
come a long way, but we have a long, long way to go. And so my birthday wish is for all of us that we achieve true equality for men and women. Thank you.
Today,